Why are we here? What is the reason for life? Why is there something rather than nothing? These might seem like meaningless questions, but that hasn't stopped them from being asked for thousands of years. Not just by philosophers and poets and the religiously committed, but by kings and commoners and hardened atheists. That's because they come from something we all share in common, a sense of spirituality. There are people who think that talking about spirituality or asking questions like these has no place in our sophisticated modern world. But no matter how sophisticated we become, questions like this have never gone away, and they probably never will. What's more, it often seems to be the case that we ask them when a crisis hits us. Human beings, thousands upon thousands, millions upon millions of different people right across the planet. Different nationalities, different cultures, different spiritualities. Colleges of further education reflect this diversity. On our campus, the whole world exists in microcosm. Not just in the student body, where there are the young and the not so young, but in the college community as a whole. Teaching staff, office staff, catering and cleaning staff. But how do we show that we welcome this diversity, that we value the rich tapestry of different traditions? It's one question for which multi-faith chaplaincy is well qualified to answer.
I think one big advantage is that it is for students and for members of staff the opportunity to feel accepted in an environment on their own terms. I think by being a concern with multi-faith, the faith of any group, or people of no faith, it is inclusive. And there have been students in the past who have found it difficult to engage with further education when it was of a more highly overtly secular nature, where they could feel marginalised, where the faith that was very important to them, the fact that it was very important to them, was not necessarily seen to be important by the college, or felt to be important by the college. So I think the multi-faith chaplaincy, for one thing, has made colleges more accessible to members of other faiths. And I think it's also been a big boost for members of staff, because it is something that has allowed them similarly to feel that they can come and be people in the college rather than simply people who deliver a course.
I became involved in the multi-faith chaplaincy when I took over as enrichment officer 1 year ago. It's something that really interests me because you can see the difference that it makes to our students. They have the opportunity to learn about different cultures and different religions, and we feel that it really improves their respect of other people. And because we're such a culturally diverse college, then it breeds an understanding amongst our student body.
What I value in Filton College is the prayer room that is provided. I mean, there's a lot of students that actually use the prayer room, and we actually find it very helpful, because if we didn't have this, we'd probably be praying outside, or some of us may not even be praying at all.
Although we're all different, it's clear that we nonetheless have other things in common, such as coping with crises. When life overwhelms us, we cope by resorting to our spirituality. And remember, not only religious people have a sense of spirituality.
I think chaplaincy provision in a college is of paramount importance. For me, I believe that part of being human is that spiritual dimension. And very often in education, we get concerned about the economics and the cultural and social aspects of being human. But often the spiritual side gets lost, often as colleges are concerned to preserve their secular identity. And I think very much I feel that chaplaincy is one of those areas where we can actually engage with what it means to be spiritual. And that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to profess a particular faith or hold particular beliefs, but it's about engaging with young people and giving them that language of expression so they can actually consider their beliefs, the things that they value in their lives. And those are the things that will actually underpin who they are as human beings as they move on into a workplace beyond the further education college.
But because we're all different, it comes as no surprise to learn that we express our spirituality in different ways. Which is just as it should be, because spirituality is part of who we are. It also plays another role. It opens the door to a different level of understanding, helping us to become better human beings, giving us a sense of well-being, of being at peace with ourselves and with the world. No wonder it's so important. We all have roots to spirituality: music, sport, the arts, prayer. But sometimes when pressures mount, or events overwhelm us, we lose touch with our spirituality, and the routes to it seem closed off. This is the time when we're going to need help. It's also the time when multi-chaplaincy comes into its own.
These events are tragic, of course, I mean, obviously, as you said, I've been through, from one extreme to another, but talking with the chaplain has helped me out through ever so much. I don't think I would have, coped very well on my own with these events. So I think the chaplain has done ever so much to support and help me through my life experiences, if I may say. Without chaplaincy, I don't think without chaplaincy, I don't think we would have had many people, especially in the religious content, to give help, really.
Because in a world where life is crammed full of busy agendas, who's going to make space for you? Who's going to have the time simply to listen? Chaplaincy can wear different clothes and many faces, but then so can spirituality. Different expressions of spirituality reflect diversity, both inside and outside the college. They help to open people's eyes and people's minds to different cultures, and that can be an illuminating and enriching experience. Visits to sacred places are more than just days out. They can be opportunities to get to know about another faith, another culture. They can be instructive and informative, enjoyable and fulfilling.
We're very fortunate to have the support of our college to organise multi-faith activities. We include those as part of our enrichment programme to raise the profile amongst our student body and get them involved. One such example is an activity we call Sacred Places. This gives the opportunity to students to visit a number of Neolithic sites and cathedrals in the local area, and they get to see the religious practices for themselves, which they very much enjoy.
I knew very little about the Sikh religion. Now I've come away with a better understanding and knowledge of the Sikhism religion from going to the Sikh temple.
Understanding what a particular religion is about can be important, particularly today when everyone's a so-called expert and there's a plentiful supply of misunderstandings around.
I think when it comes to cultural awareness, and especially our sort of demystifying Islam training that we do, or presentations, I think when it comes to working with institutes of further education, I think there you've got a situation where obviously they try their best to teach Islam as much as possible within the remit they've got. But I think what we can offer and what we add is to supplement what you're teaching already. And obviously there's nothing like having, obviously if you taught someone Islam already, there's nothing like having someone come in live and speak from the horse's mouth, so to speak, and actually give the point of view from someone who's actually practicing that faith. And also what we also do to add to that, we also have like a no holds barred question and answer session where we say nothing is taboo, nothing is politically correct. And it's only when you do that you actually get to tackle a lot of those issues that may be in the back of people's minds, because it doesn't matter how nice or pleasant you may make Islam sound, whether in the classroom or whether us coming to talk to people. But the problem is, people may have seen something on the internet, they may have read something in the newspaper, something they see on TV, and the problem is until you tackle those misconceptions that they've got in the back of their head somewhere, you're not really going to break down any sort of barriers of misunderstanding between communities.
When we visited the mosque, I found that they gave the impression from the media as terrorism and bombs, and I just don't see that happening, to be honest. I can see, basically, we've got direct information, and I just see them as normal people like us, really.
Yeah, I never found before that I believed any of that anyway, but
when I actually heard it from the guide, you could just tell that they were being stereotyped.
But does this sort of active exposure really have long-term benefits if it's only about spiritual matters?
The model of chaplaincy at our college is based around a multi-faith team where there are 3 members, Hindu, Muslim and Christian. The way that we do most of our work, embedding it amongst the staff and the students, is to actually go into the classrooms during their tutorial phase and talk about God. And we try to do this in a fashion which is non-threatening, totally inclusive, whether they be Christian, Muslim, no faith whatsoever. We will go in, we talk about everyday issues, abortion, drugs, adoption, how the world began, how the universe began. We do it all from a faith direction, and we invite them to think about it and talk about it, and we find that very, very successful.
Multi-faith chaplains may have different beliefs, but they all share one thing: neutrality. There's no partisanship, no preaching, no attempts to convert. But if it's not about saying my way is the best way, what is it about?
Interest is one of faith development, of breaking down barriers, bringing people together to create a state of understanding. Because I do find that, with me too, being a dyed-in-the-wool Anglican and hence Christian, what are these other faiths? What makes them tick? And for me, chaplaincy in further education has been joining others on a pilgrimage of faith, learning from them, hopefully then for me too, without being confrontational, but being together as fellow members of faith communities on a pilgrimage of life.
No one stands over chaplains to make sure they're keeping to the party line, because no party's being represented and no line is being pushed. And when people talk about the danger of hidden agendas, well, there isn't one. If chaplaincy is about anything, it's about reconnecting people to their own spirituality.
I think there is immense value in the relationship that exists within the further education advisors that are based within the dioceses in this region and the colleges. We all bring different expertise to our roles, and in working together we're able to offer our colleges help and advice as they look into and engage more with the issues of multi-faith chaplaincy.
Chaplains are there for one set of people, the college community. They're there to share in people's sorrows, and yes, their celebrations as well. They're there for people, students and staff, when they need to offload, when they need to talk, when they need to find a way out of their darkness. And if you think the word chaplain has Christian connotations, remember that today, well over half of colleges within the further education sector have multi-faith chaplaincy teams. But if further education colleges reflect the diversity in society, where does chaplaincy fit within further education?
The model of chaplaincy at Filton College is fully integrated into learner services. It's a 0.6 permanent appointment, which was a conscious decision that we made 4 years ago. It's vital that it is integrated within the learner services section, which is fundamental to the well-being of all students at Filton College.
I think it's been given a real impetus by the ownership of the problem by the government. So the last Labour administration, I think, gave it a tremendous boost with the Minister of State for Further Education's commitment that there should be a multi-faith chaplaincy established in every further education college. And I think that allowed us to make really strong progress. That commitment at government level, backed up by the production of Pushing Further within the church's setup, mobilised the other faiths, brought them together, enabled us to create quite a lot of impetus. So I think we went through a period of considerable momentum. I think it was also given a boost, but a handicap possibly as well, by the concern about the terrorist agenda, extremist agenda, or however you define that. Some of which may have a religious association, some of which may not.
The spiritual landscape at Filton College is very diverse. There's students and staff from all walks of life, all faiths, and I think the chaplaincy at Filton College is doing a great job because it's actually offering an optional service additional to the academic studies. So when people have a problem, for example, with stress or with family problems, they can approach the chaplaincy and they can, you know, talk about their ambitions or problems, you know, in confidence and in not such a formal way.
It's clear that multi-faith chaplaincy fits in well with the daily routine at colleges, meets the needs of the further education community, and fulfills requirements with regard to diversity. But what about the colleges themselves?
I think the key thing is ownership. The important thing is that multi-faith chaplaincy has to matter to those who lead colleges. And the challenge for those who lead colleges is to understand what their college is about. And I think every college has a value statement, a vision statement, a mission statement. And it's translating into a reality what those statements that very often say laudable things, what they actually might mean. So if you say you really care about people, all people of all faiths, probably don't say people of all faiths, you probably say we care about all people. But by implication that means people of all faiths as well, and all beliefs or none. What does that mean? And I think the challenge then to a college organisation is, how do you put that in reality? How do you make the time for colleagues to talk about that? How do you make the time to think about what are the curricular implications for that? What are the personal relationship implications for that in college? So I would say the biggest organisational challenge is at a college level of making sure that you move from being a highly efficient, financially highly efficient, academically highly successful organisation, so you could say we're doing very well measured on those criteria, to one that actually is able to say we turn out highly successful, well-rounded, socially capable, interesting, empathetic people. Because in the long term, that's what our society is going to need. And in the long term, that's what this work is about.
Multi-faith chaplaincy clearly has a unique contribution to make. But is it fit for purpose?
Over the last few years, there has undoubtedly been a very considerable growth in the number of chaplaincies, and indeed in the recognition that faith and belief is part of the identity of all students who come into colleges, and therefore the chaplaincy is needed to support and recognise and acknowledge that part of student identity and provide appropriate support for students. But I think we have to say that in recent times, with the reduction in funding available to the sector, there has been some reduction in the numbers of chaplaincy. Certainly the growth has slowed, and we're also finding a considerable reduction now in the resources available for activities like tutorials and enrichment activities, which is where a number of chaplaincies make a very valuable contribution to the work of colleges. It's often their way into direct interaction with students and the curriculum.
The way forward, I think, is that chaplaincy is seen as something of worth in its own right. I believe that means there should be training, and it should be recognised training and evaluated, and so people know exactly where you are. And that can be for all levels, and I think there should be different levels. There are in other areas of chaplaincy, and I'd like us to follow that. Also, I think the faiths need to realise that young people are the very heart of where their faith is going. They're the people who are going to carry it on, and therefore colleges, even the National Star College, or maybe the National Star College, are places where, in fact, young people are so important that we need to make sure that we can meet with them in where they are, and colleges where they are, especially for my students, because they're residential. That is their home for the 3 years or 4 years that they're with us. And it's very important that actually they do get that spiritual dimension delivered to them, not by hearsay, but by people who know and can develop and discuss and encourage and all the things that go with what education is about.
Funding is always an issue, but it comes down to a matter of priorities. If we are to make our diverse society work and reap the benefits of it, We need to breed understanding. That calls for commitment. Commitment where people don't just go through the motions, but become actively involved. Talking of commitment, what of the future?
As a diocesan advisor in further education, I've had the privilege to work alongside both chaplains and also senior managers within my colleges. The position has allowed me to actually be part of that debate and engagement about chaplaincy. And I think even though we're all suffering from constraints in terms of economics, I think the position of having those advisors has been paramount in the development of chaplains, certainly within my diocese and I know within the South West in general. We've begun to broaden our working together, working far more as a team. So although I represent one diocese, the expertise that exists within my neighbouring diocese can also be drawn upon in order to meet the needs of particular colleges. That would be the case when we're looking at colleges that have a far broader faith base, because my diocese has perhaps lower representation for faiths other than Christianity, but you would find that far more present potentially within the Diocese of Bristol, where we're able therefore to tap into that sort of expertise.
And it's always been a battle to get people to say, there is a challenge here, there is an opportunity, there is a real ministry to do in terms of pastoral care and faith development. Here is a great opportunity, the largest sort of sector of education in the country, and where are you? You know, we need more to come in and give help, not just sort of ministers and ordained people or the equivalent, but lay folk as well. One of the things I'm happy about with our team, and it is a team approach, is that at the current time, you know, we've got an equal number of ordained or recognised ministers and lay people on the team, which is good.
This need to get others involved is critical if multi-faith chaplaincy is to do its job effectively.
I think this will be an excellent way to bring the work of chaplaincy to the notice of colleges and to others as well. We need to encourage faith communities, we need to encourage church authorities and the sector stakeholders as well, all of whom have a part to play in supporting and encouraging chaplaincy. And I think spreading a DVD like this across all those people will undoubtedly do a great deal to raise the profile of chaplaincy, which is needed. Chaplaincy needs to grow in colleges. We've not got to the point where every college has got one. Until we have, then we need to use every means at our disposal to show the good work that chaplains do.
In the end, multi-faith chaplaincy in colleges is not about box ticking. It fulfills a vital role and is an essential component of a college's full range of services. But it's even more than that. To acknowledge the value of chaplaincy is to acknowledge the value of each and every member of the diverse further education communities. And that can only bode well for society as a whole.
So yeah, we're very much so there, and pleased to be so. But it's taken a long time to break down sort of the suspicions. There was a recent deputy principal who said to me, I was here at the beginning when you came, Derek. The last thing I wanted in this college was a chaplaincy. Now I wouldn't see this college without one. Great. Hallelujah.